Hello and welcome to the video. This is a quick video to add a GPS onto this Recon 35 V2. Now, I did a video a couple of weeks ago about this, and my idea is to actually add the Ascent system into here to play around with it. I need a model with a GPS because I like GPSs because that gives me the return to home functionality. This thing is available in 3 different versions. I got the cheapest one without any kind of FPV equipment in it. However, unfortunately, it does not ship with the GPS, which is supposed to go in this hole here. So as I'm about to fit one, I thought let me very quickly show you how to do the process. You need a specific GPS for this. You need one, the HGLRC GPS Mini 100s. They actually look like this. They're incredibly small, kind of smaller than a thumbnail, and they have a connector on the end. However, I don't think the connector's the right one for that particular flight controller that's in here, sadly. And the idea is we're going to put that physically behind that little thing and then connect it to the flight controller. Now, the big question is, why would you want to add a GPS? Why am I so bothered about it? Well, a GPS does quite a few cool things if you add it to your flight controller. The first one that everyone thinks about, of course, is the fact that, well, it'll give you some kind of return to home functionality. And that's true. If you have iNav or Betaflight, then it allows you, in the event of a failsafe or as a flight mode, for you to flick a switch on the radio and for it to come back and hopefully land somewhere near you. The other big benefit with this is that when you have a GPS installed, you also get access to lots of other really interesting information, sometimes very important information for your on-screen display, specifically things like your speed, altitude, distance, direction to home are all available by simply adding a GPS. If you're going to put any kind of expensive equipment on a quad or a plane for that matter, I would recommend adding a GPS. If you're using iNav on something like this, I would recommend get yourself a GPS that also has a compass inside. Many of them do. This one doesn't, you can tell, because it only has 4 wires connected to it. If it has 6, then those are the additional 2 wires for something called I2C, and that will then give you the compass functionality. I'm not going to be too worried about this. I'm going to keep this as a little Betaflight Quad for the Ascent stuff, and we'll set it all up. First thing we need to do before we start cracking open this stuff, we need to make sure that we have a spare UART available. If you look for the manual for most flight controllers, it will show you where you're supposed to plug your GPS in. However, the flight controller inside here is a little bit weird and wacky, so I've had to kind of just connect to it using the port at the back. It's this lower USB port here, and in Betaflight I can see that it's UART 3 that has been configured for it. Now, on the actual flight controller itself, that tracks because I can see the UART 3 connections. There's both a port for the GPS style connector that it's come with, but also at the side there are all the pads. And that also has SCA and SDL. Those are those 2 additional connections if you have a compass. Again, which in this case we don't. So now we know where we're going to plug this in. That makes it really easy. So let me just crack open the case so we can get to the flight controller, and let's have a look at what we're going to have to do, because this cable is way too long for this. It probably only needs to be a couple of inches. We'll need a bit of strain relief. So do I solder it on? I might end up having to do that. So with the case, the upper and lower case for this particular quad removed, things start to get a little bit clearer. And we can see here that the way it's designed is there's just kind of clips inside this top part, which is going to hold the GPS in place. Just like that. So I'm not going to click it home just yet because we need to figure out how long the wires need to be. As expected, as the GPS, because this is currently upside down on the table, it's a little bit trickier to see, but if the GPS is going to be there, I do not need all this cable. And this is one of the things that I'm personally always very careful about. Things like crosstalk, where power lines can introduce problems into signal wires, get a little bit easier if you have lots of spare cable. So the connector at the end, although it's the right connector for this, and I could just repin it and then bundle the wires together, the actual order of the cables on here is wrong for the port. I personally think that HGLRC should have included not only the connector for this particular port for a GPS on this bare bones unit, but also include the cable in the kit for the HDFPV system. Now we do have these solderable bits down the side, and I think that's what I'm going to do here. I'm actually going to cut the cable to length, give myself a little bit of strain relief, and actually come around here and solder it to the edge. So let me just do that, and I'll come back and show you what that looks like. So I clipped the wires to length so that we have enough. I just kind of temporarily fitted the other side of the case to make sure that I've got lots and lots of strain relief, and that kind of is going to fit fine. Pre-tinned the pads and then pre-tinned the ends of the wires and soldered them all into place. Now I am going to twist them, which I would always recommend that you do for any kind of signal cable like this. And what I'm going to do is then feed the GPS down into its holder and snap it into place, and then do all the screws up. And then once we've done that, we can come back and check the settings in Betaflight. The only thing to do, of course, is to make sure that the transmit pin here on the GPS is connected to the receive pin on the flight controller, and also that the ground and 5 volts are the right way around. Just triple check that. It's very easy to do when you're trying to be careful and neat with all of your soldering, but just triple check it before you do everything. So let me just put this back together, and we'll come back and we'll do all the Betaflight last pieces. So that is all together. The only thing I would say is be very careful when you're playing with this particular model anyway, is that this little push button which powers it on is actually here at the front, and I knocked it and kind of ripped the post out. So be very careful of that. The reason I've got this kind of stuck in the back is this is a spring-loaded piece here at the back that's actually designed to kind of cover up the normal USB port. I don't like it pressing on the connector, so that's fine. So with it installed now, we just need to plug it in. Now I have installed 2 18650 batteries under this cover. That's how this particular quad is powered. However, some GPSs are powered when you plug in the USB, some aren't. This one I think is. Having it not powered can be very useful for updating, because one of the things you may have seen in other videos is if the USB is powered and connected, sometimes getting the flight controller into DFU to update the firmware on it can be a real pain in the butt. So the last things we need to do then is let's plug it into Betaflight. We can see here that the LEDs have actually come on the GPS, so I got the power and ground the right way around, if nothing else. And now we're connected, we can see that we have the GPS is red. Now in Betaflight land, that actually means that the GPS is being seen, it's sending data, but at the moment it hasn't got a 3D lock. That's great. So how would that be set up? So we need to have the GPS selected in ports where we've connected it, UART3. In configuration, we also need to have the GPS enabled for navigation and telemetry, need to be turned on here as well. And then in things like the GPS tab, we can set it up. You can see here it's starting to get signals, so we can see the transmit and receive pin are looking good as well. So I would probably save those settings, and then that means we have the home point sorted when it first locks, and we're in good shape. So the last things we need to do is go into your failsafe tab, and then we need to set the hover throttle. Obviously change your failsafe procedure to GPS rescue so it comes back to you. The hover throttle is what needs to be set. This needs to be set accurately, and the way you do that, I've got a whole video on it, I'll link you down below, but basically you're just going to hover the model, you're going to see what that value is, and then you're going to kind of type that in manually. Hopefully in the future iNav and Betaflight will be better and actually be able to figure that out and auto populate that. But that's how you add a GPS. Now with this, I feel that I can put in some HDFPV equipment. If something goes wrong, I can flick a return to home and it will come back to me. In the event of a failsafe, it'll fly back to me, probably with Betaflight. I'm still not a huge fan of the GPS rescue compared to things like the iNav return to home mode. But crucially, in the GPS here on the on-screen display, I can now add things like height, ground speed, distance and direction to home, and they'll all work. The only downside is now when I take it to the field, I'm going to have to wait 30-40 seconds for the GPS to lock before I can take off and fly so that everything works perfectly. Thank you for watching my video. Check out the playlist, and adding Pedantry 360 to your search terms will help you find my content. If you haven't done so already, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. You can support the time I spend here answering questions and helping others by using the links in the video description.